The information shared on this program is for general informational purposes only. It is not intended as legal, tax, investment, or other professional advice, nor as a recommendation of any specific investment product or financial instrument. Always consult your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant regarding your own situation. All client reviews or spotlight segments are unpaid testimonials from current clients of Tony Walker Financial. Individual experiences will vary, are not representative of all clients, and are not a guarantee of future results or success.
What is a fiduciary? Well, let's find out.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money. The Worry-Free Retirement with your host, six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
The word for the day is fiduciary. According to Webster's, in its simplest definition, a fiduciary is someone who is held or founded in trust and confidence. Or as I like to say, someone that you would confidently leave in charge to take care of your stuff and handle your stuff as if it were your own stuff. In other words, to act in your best interest. And nowhere is the word fiduciary so important than when it comes to stuff like the money you have saved for your retirement. Yes, the most important financial decision you're ever going to make, who to turn over your life savings or your stuff in retirement. And it's got to have as its core question this very question: will the person you trust with your money act in your best interest or not? Well, one way to find out before taking that fateful financial plunge into retirement is to at least confirm that the advisor in whom you're about to trust is a fiduciary, someone who is obligated by law to work in your best interest. So, what is a fiduciary, and what are some examples of what to look for in an advisor before investing your money with them? Well, let's find out. Well, welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, longtime fiduciary and retirement planning specialist, Tony Walker. And today we are going to share with you the importance of working with not only a fiduciary, but also why having an experienced and well-trained retirement planning firm in your corner is the key to being worry-free in retirement. Okay, so let's set the stage of most hard-working, red-blooded Americans who, for the past 30 or 40 years, have slaved away at work and now come to the biggest financial decision they're ever going to make. Who are they going to trust with their life savings? Let that sink in for a moment, because apparently, by the looks of many of you who I meet for the first time who are quickly throwing your money at the first advisor you meet, this has not even occurred to you. This notion that you have worked and saved all these years and then in one fell swoop, possibly right after a nice advisor maybe springs for a $50 steak dinner, or maybe an insurance agent or advisor gleefully shows you a product offering you a free bonus, only to anticipate you'll be so naive that you just blindly turn over your life savings to them to invest. And worse yet, here's another instance I see play out. Savers who willingly give their retirement savings to someone, some advisor, who is not even required by law to work in your best interest. I mean, come on now. Does that make any sense whatsoever, to work with someone who is not required by law to put your best interest ahead of theirs? Well, of course not, which is why, for the next 25 minutes or so, I'm going to share with you who is actually a fiduciary, what requirements that a fiduciary is under, and why, assuming you are retired or nearing retirement, you're going to want to work with a fiduciary to handle your money. Good stuff coming your way. I'm Tony Walker. You're listening to the Worry-Free Retirement. We'll be right back.
Here's a Tony Walker Financial 5-star review from John Mackey. I've had the pleasure of working with Tony Walker Financial for the past 5 years. They exemplify what it means to be a true business partner, earning your trust and continually proving their value by genuinely caring for you and your financial well-being. A heartfelt thank you to Tony and his entire team for your dedication and support. To read this full review and more 5-star reviews like it, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Wondering how much money you'll need to retire? Probably a lot less than you think. I'm retirement specialist Tony Walker, and I've helped thousands of savers determine when to retire and how much money they'll need in retirement, and I can help you too. To meet in person at no cost or obligation, let me invite you to log on right now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call the toll-free number at 877-499-9255. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. We've got my favorite son-in-law, Trey Juergens, who's one of the main fiduciaries in our Louisville offices. And Trey, I was reading an article the other day. There's more and more you see out there about fiduciaries, which basically, folks, fiduciary just means someone who is acting in your best interest and generally accountable to somebody. You could be a fiduciary of a trust, a fiduciary of a child. In our case, we're fiduciaries of accounts, and we are under the auspices of the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, and they have a lot of ground rules we got to follow. Oh, by the way, I got to tell you this before we get into this. I've heard a lot of advertising lately, and I know these people are annuity peddlers. They're not registered investment advisors or fiduciaries, and they're out there telling people to move their 401ks over to safer territories. Well, you and I both know that that is a securities transaction. Anytime, the regulators have told me this, if you go out and advertise that move your 401k over to safer territory and you're going to put it in an annuity, I was told by the regulators that is a securities act. You should be registered. So let's talk first of all about, we're going to get into what a fiduciary is, but how many advisors are flying under the radar who should be registered, and the government and the regulators are not, to me, not doing anything about it, or I guess they don't listen to the radio or TV enough, but I see this all the time. And how frustrating it is for us, because we're doing all this stuff by the code and all these regulations we have to follow. TJ's going to be registered now. He had to take this huge exam, and just it's very frustrating.
Yeah, it is when you're playing by the rules and then you see these folks out there able to sell the same products and make the same commissions without acting in a fiduciary capacity. It is a little frustrating. I mean, you could go and study for a life and health insurance license in the state of Kentucky or Indiana and sell these products probably within 4 or 5 weeks if you wanted to. Host a couple dinner seminars and you're off to the races. But these clients that purchase an annuity from an agent capacity, they may seem like they're acting in their best interest, but they're selling a product, they're licensed, they're able to do it, that legally they're under no obligation to provide them any service after the sale, which unfortunately we see a lot.
So let's get to a fiduciary. This article kind of implied that most people that are fiduciaries will be acting in your best interest, but when we get into retirement planning, and now this is the world according to Tony, I don't think anybody's doing anything necessarily wrong, but let's speak to the fact of how the financial world seems to be so slow to want to give the money back to clients. In fact, we've had prospective clients come to us, and that's what they're frustrated. They're looking for a second opinion because they feel like they can't get any of their money back. So is a fiduciary who may be properly registered but is almost kind of hog-tying the money and won't give it back, are they really acting in the best interest of the client?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was thinking about. Is we see all these more Wall Street types, brokers that are trying to accumulate so much money for these clients, and that's all great. However, if they have no plan to distribute any of these funds back, what are they really doing for the client? So when we lay out these game plans, we really feel like we're doing our fiduciary duty to these retirees to use and enjoy this money that they've saved. And that's, we talked before about having Schwab accounts that we do plan to spend down. We don't plan to preserve principal at the cost of them not enjoying their retirement. And we see fiduciaries out there that even miss RMDs. They're not sending money when they're supposed to send money. They're accumulating and, as they say, building bigger barns, but they're not providing these clients any use and enjoyment of this money.
And that might be you right now, folks. Maybe you are wondering, well, how come my advisors seem to be fighting me tooth and nail when I ask for money? That could be, we'll say we could be. You got to remember, when we as advisors hold on to your money, especially if we're charging fees, which we do through the Schwab, you got to remember all these advisors are getting paid fees on that money. So if you're pulling money out, it stands to reason we in the financial world make less money, correct?
That's correct.
Are you retired, retiring soon, or possibly faced with your company closing its doors forever? If so, take advantage of this opportunity to roll your 401k into something we call mailbox money.
Mailbox money!
For years, clients of Tony Walker Financial have enjoyed mailbox money, and now you can too by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 877-499-9255. Let us help you today.
Mailbox Money is a reference to guaranteed lifetime annuity payments backed solely by the issuing insurer's claims-paying ability.
Our client spotlight today shines brightly on Miss Kim DeFazio. And Miss DeFazio, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. And I'd like to, first of all, just tell the audience briefly, what did you do for a living prior to your retirement?
Prior to my retirement, I worked for the Federal Railroad Administration. I was a rail integrity specialist, and then I retired at the end of January 2023.
That's awesome. Remind me, how did you find out about Tony Walker Financial? Do you remember?
Well, I had a financial advisor prior to your team, and I wasn't happy with some of the fees that they were charging me. And I was talking to my family member, and we just happened to talk, and he said, "Have you ever heard of Tony Walker Financial?" And I said, "Yes, I have." And he said, "Well, you know, I'm one of his clients." So he said, "I would encourage you to call Tony and talk with him." And that's what I did.
Oh, thank you very much. So your experience thus far, you've been with us a couple of years, but now that you're retired, tell us about the audience, about the experience you've had with the staff and our ability to respond to your needs.
Tony, I mean, it's hands down. If I have a question or I have a concern, all I need to do is call that phone number. Everyone is ready to help out with whatever. And it's prompt. I mean, it's prompt service. It's not like I wait 2 weeks or a week and then somebody gets back with me. So I like that customer service feel.
Well, Mr. Fazio, we appreciate your business so much and look forward to many years to come. So thank you.
You're welcome, Tony. Thank you.
Looking for an advisor you can trust? Schedule your free phone call with Tony at TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 1-877-499-9255.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. We're in the Bowling Green studios with Miss Lisa Allerkamp. Lisa's in charge of our income planning department and also knows a thing or two about Social Security. So I wanted to ask Lisa a couple of questions for you. A lot of misconceptions out there on Social Security, Lisa, but one of those is this thing called the full retirement age.
Well, Tony, the full retirement age is the number that Social Security has determined that you are fully eligible to retire as far as your Social Security benefits go. Usually it's around 67, depending on your date of birth. It could be 66 in 10 months, but normally it's around age 67. Once you hit your full retirement age, you can draw your Social Security benefit without any reduction. Of course, you have the opportunity to start your benefit prior to full retirement age as early as age 62. However, anytime you begin your benefit prior to your full retirement age, there will be a reduction.
Actually, I had this happen the other day, and the gentleman makes quite a bit of money, and he said, "Tony, I'm going to actually keep working, but I think I want to take my Social Security at my full retirement age." Let's say he's going to make $100,000 a year. Is that going to impact Social Security in any way since he is at his full retirement age and making that much in wages?
As long as you're full retirement age, you can make unlimited earnings, and it will not affect your benefit. What comes into play is if you take your benefit prior to your full retirement age, then there's what they call annual earnings test. For this year, 2026, it's around $24,000. So if you're drawing your benefit prior to full retirement age and continue to work, you need to stay below that $24,000 limit each year, or Social Security will withhold part of your benefit. They'll withhold $1 for every $2 that you earn over that $24,000 limit.
20 years ago, nobody even knew what a fiduciary was. I was a fiduciary back then, and at that time I was managing money. I just kind of fell into this label as a fiduciary because of the way my licensing was set up. Today, the term fiduciary, which really means technically someone who is going to act in your best interest. The second part of that in the financial world is someone who is going to share with you exactly how they're compensated so that you know exactly how they're getting paid for the advice they're giving you. So a fiduciary is someone who is, financial world is under the SEC, that's the Securities and Exchange Commission. There's even among fiduciaries, there's a concern. There's an ad on TV a lot from a huge firm. They're a big firm and they're fiduciaries, but they are constantly badgering and bashing people And the way they pitch that is, if someone charges a commission, they're not a fiduciary. Well, that has nothing to do with anything. A fiduciary can earn commissions, here's the key, as long as those commissions are disclosed and you know that the fiduciary, which we sell products for a commission and we charge fees, is telling you that this is a commissionable product. So there is nothing wrong with someone charging a commission who is a fiduciary as long as they are disclosing to you that they're going to make a commission on the product. Now, here's what I see as a huge problem. People who are fiduciaries, by law, they are, quote, supposed to act in your best interest, but they don't. To me, a fiduciary, before recommending a product, should provide some sort of plan, some sort of illustration, documentation, something you could read to make sure you understand why they are recommending that product. We will provide you a free retirement game plan. That game plan comes at no additional cost, and we feel we owe it to you to provide this game plan so that, number one, you can understand why we're recommending products we recommend, whether those are annuities or investments, because you can see the plan, you can see how these products would work. And then secondly, the plan allows us to have guidance down the road because we know that things will change. So if that's you, if you're looking for a local fiduciary you can trust that will provide you a written game plan, we need to talk. And we have made this so easy, we called it the free 10-minute, ironically, 10-minute fiduciary phone call. And here's how easy it is for you to speak to me, Tony Walker, the owner of the company, for just a few minutes at no cost or obligation. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on that Let's Get Started button, and we will arrange that phone call. Now, after the phone call, if I think I can help you, we are going to meet in person at either our Bowling Green or Louisville, Kentucky offices and get that game plan in place. Again, there is no cost or obligation to go through this process. Internet not your thing? No worries. Call us anytime to schedule this free phone call. That number is 877-499-9255.
Somebody found fiduciary. When I was just a little boy, I found it hard to say. It seemed I spent most of all the money that I made. Then someone told me Tony had a better way, you see, to manage all my finances footloose and worry-free. Tony Walker is a mighty fine fiduciary. Tony Walker is mighty fine. Do I Roth? Do I not? Do I invest in stocks? Or would a whole life policy keep me from crashing on the rocks? Do I hold on to my cash or start an annuity? Or would an indexed S&P provide me more security? Well, Tony Walker is a mighty fine fiduciary. Tony Walker is a mighty fine fiduciary. Tony
what is a fiduciary?
Well, it's someone who knows about finances to help you worry less about your money. Even if you don't know an annuity from a hole in the ground, he can help you get that cash out of your mattress so it can start working for you. A fiduciary knows what to invest, how much to invest, where to invest, and when to invest. But most of all, they are someone you can trust to help you make decisions that will ultimately put you in your most prosperous place. You can rest assured all will be handled with your best interests in mind. They have to. It's the law. And my friend, I found that Tony Walker truly is a mighty fine fiduciary. Tony Walker is a mighty fine fiduciary. Tony Walker is mighty fine. I sure don't want to leave it all up to Uncle Sam, but enjoy all of the blessings the good Lord placed here in my hand. Well, Tony Walker is a mighty fine fiduciary. Tony Walker is a mighty fine fiduciary.
Hey, what about them capital gains?
If you're searching for a team of fiduciaries that will look after your best interest, then visit TonyWalkerFinancial.com to discover how they can help bring you into your most prosperous place. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. This week, we walk down the aisle with Tony to learn the importance of we money. In Chapter 3 of Live Well, Die Broke, Susan comes out of the closet.
Much like my dad, who met his bride-to-be in college, I met my bride-to-be actually in an educational setting too. It was even earlier than college. It was in the halls of Bowling Green High School back in 1976, when a friend of mine by the name of Donnie said he had to introduce me to somebody named Susan Moore. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Well, to be honest, when I met Susan, I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to take this girl out on a date. The problem was I didn't have my license yet. She was a little older and had her permit. Now, back in those days, if you had your permit, you only needed it 30 days and you're off to the races. But when I found out she hadn't gone to get her license, I said, hey, Susan, I'd like to take you on a date, but I've got my permit, but I need a licensed driver to ride with. Won't you get your driver's license? She literally got it that week, and here we go. Actually, truth be known, my dad let me drive across town to pick her up with my permit, which Bowling Green was a small town back then. You could pull that stuff off in 1976. But from that time, it's kind of interesting, since Susan and I have been married since that time, we've tried to keep this philosophy in place that my dad always referred to as we money. Now, we money means that whatever comes through that door, his is his and hers is hers and hers is mine and mine is hers. In other words, we don't make any distinction in the money and where it came from. We tried to separate a little bit when we first did that at the first of our marriage, and it just didn't work. And I said, Susan, let's just go to a joint account. And at the time, I got the better end of the deal because back then I was a fledgling broadcast guy. I was trying to sell radio ads. I had a little radio gig on a local station in Franklin, Kentucky. I wasn't making much money, but Susan, who was a nurse, was. So actually, truth be known, if she had not been working as a nurse between now, from the time I graduated college and got in this business in 1984, I don't know we would have made it. So what happened was, again, let's go back to the chapter title. Susan finally comes out of the closet. You're probably wondering, what in the world's going on here? So let's kind of fast forward a little bit. In order for us to not have to put our kids in daycare, what we would do is Susan would work nights and weekends at the hospital. And then in 1984, I got a gig with her father, Bill Moore, at Bill Moore Insurance, and started to work in the insurance industry back in 1984. So I would work during the week. Susan would work on nights and weekends. Now, the problem with this was she would come home, at 7:30 in the morning, all tired and needing to go to sleep, and she would go to lay down, but then we had kids in the house. It was noisy, and she finally would say, Tony, I cannot get any sleep. So we had an idea. We had a buddy of ours named Dickie Reed. He was kind of a handyman. And there was a big closet in our bedroom. And I said, Dickie, what if we just took out this closet? I was going to build another one on the other side of the wall, which I did. Back then, I was actually pretty handy thinking about this. But anyway, Dickie said, yeah, I can clear it out. I'll put a small window in there. You can crank it open, bring in a little light. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, this is where Susan's going to sleep at night, in the closet, which he thought was hilarious. But Dickie did that. He was able to cut out the bricks, install the window, took out all the old rods, cleaned it up in there, got it nice. The drywall's all smooth. We put down some nice carpet. And literally when Susan would get in, she'd get her sleeping bag, go in there, close the door where she had plenty of quiet, and she could go to sleep. So what is the point with all this? Well, first of all, especially if you're in a marriage, the only takeaway I would have on this, looking back over our relationship, is take on the concept of we money. Try not to keep score with who's bringing in what. Obviously, you got to get on the same page in terms of what you're spending money on, but don't get hung up on the little things. If your spouse wants to spend a little extra money on a hobby, my suggestion is let them do it. If your spouse wants to go out and maybe take a trip somewhere, even if the money's a little tight, as long as both of you are contributing, I would say give and take. In other words, choose your battles. Don't sweat the small stuff when it comes to money, and make sure you keep your money as we money.
To learn more about Live Well, Die Broke, visit TonyWalkerFinancial.com. While there, you can listen to the audiobook version absolutely free. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Worried about running out of money in retirement? Well, stop worrying and learn how mailbox money can keep that from happening. Set up your free phone call with me, Tony Walker, by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Are you retired or retiring soon? Do you have a 401k, IRA, 403b, thrift savings account, or lump sum pension that you'd like to move to safer territory? Did you know that all the money you see on your 401k statement isn't really yours? Depending on your overall taxable income, the government has essentially a lien on your 401k that can tax as much as 40% of your money when you go to take it out. Tony Walker calls this the 401k tax tumor. For over 40 years, retirement specialist Tony Walker has helped thousands of savers worry less about money by creating game plans to deal with your tax tumor. Get control of your retirement by controlling the taxes owed on it. Schedule a free meeting to see if you can reduce your tax tumor and provide a guaranteed income you can never outlive. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
After witnessing 3 straight years of stock market declines, some 20 years ago I began offering fixed annuities as a safe alternative to avoiding risk. Call it dumb luck or being at the right place at the right time. As one of the first advisors in the country to start focusing on using fixed annuities within the planning process, I've developed a reputation around the country as someone who knows a thing or two about annuities. If truth be known, I didn't wake up in 2002 and all of a sudden make it my life's ambition to be a top annuity producer. It just sort of happened. And I must attribute much of the success in the field of annuities to not just a lot of hard work, but also being blessed with a staff that can handle all the service issues that comes along with servicing over 5,000 annuities. Due to our reputation and success in the field of retirement planning and how to use annuities properly, years ago I was asked by a large insurance company to come and speak to over 500 of their top producers on this very subject. And since at that time I was seeing a growing trend of agents not representing these products correctly, I was getting concerned that many savers were not being told the whole story about annuities, both the pros and the cons, I decided to title my talk to these advisors as "You're either ignorant or unethical. Which is it?" Which, upon hearing this title, some in the audience were less than enthusiastic. I explained that word, of course, as ignorance, simply meaning this: a lack of understanding, which, assuming some of these agents did not understand all of the complexities offered up by these annuities they were selling, was still no excuse for not educating themselves on how annuities actually work and what the saver should know about them. Either way, I was doing my best to remind these advisors that our goal was not to see how many annuities we could sell, but to try as best we could to make sure that the saver client was purchasing the annuity that was right for them. So what's the answer, Tony? And how do I know if the financial products I'm being presented for me are in my best interest or maybe in the best interest of the advisor selling them? Well, first, you need to be sure that the advisor is a fiduciary, someone who is required by law to work in your best interest. Second, assuming you are dealing with your 401k or other large sums of money in retirement, be sure that the advisor is actually experienced in the art of retirement planning. And then finally, in a perfect world, be sure that the advisor is independent and has a full-time staff to assist you to deal with the changes that will come with retirement. Because as someone who has personally met in person with over 15,000 savers, watched the lives of these thousands of savers play out in retirement, the one thing I can promise you is this: change will come. So what's the first step in our process of helping so many savers at Tony Walker Financial? Well, we first need to talk, and we've made this real easy, and best of all, it is free and comes without any obligation. We call it the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. And to take advantage of this free offer to talk to me in person, all you got to do is one of two things. You can log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, and when you get there, just click on that Let's Get Started button. Now, what happens is that information confidentially goes to our offices in Bowling Green, Kentucky. We will reach out to you and schedule that free 10-minute phone call with myself. And if it warrants, I'll be happy to meet with you in person to provide a free financial game plan at either our Bowling Green or Louisville, Kentucky offices. And if the internet's not your thing, call us anytime. That toll-free number is 877-499-9255. Well, that's all the time we have for today. I certainly have enjoyed being with you, but you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.